My dear students, in the previous class we studied constructors and destructors, right? Chapter number 9, constructors and destructors is over, right? Now in this class I am going to start a new chapter, that is the chapter number 10. Chapter number 10, inheritancy. For the annual examination we are going to get 8 marks from 5 marks from this chapter. 5 marks from this chapter. We already know definition of inheritance, right? Because in the 5th chapter, I think, OOP, object oriented programming concept, we listed basic concepts of OOP. What are the basic concepts? We listed class, object, polymorphism, data abstraction, encapsulation, reusability of code, inheritancy, right? There were listed. That is, inheritance is one of the characteristics of OOP. Just we listed inheritance, right? Now in this chapter we are going to discuss in detail about inheritancy. What is inheritancy? First we are going to discuss topic called introduction to inheritancy. And afterwards we are going to discuss types of inheritancy, right? Types of inheritancy. First let us see what is a inheritancy. We can say it is one of the basic concepts of OOP, right? It is also one of the basic concepts of OOP. Now we can say exactly what is meant by inheritance. Means inheritancy is a process of deriving a new class from existing class, right? What is inheritancy? It is a process of deriving a new class from existing class is called inheritancy. Otherwise we can also say, let us see here what is inheritance means. Inheritancy is the capability of one class to inherit, means acquire. Inherit, it means acquire, right? What is inheritancy? It is the capability of one class to acquire, inherit the properties of another class. What he says? Inheritance is the capability of one class to acquire or inherit the properties and behaviors from another class. It means properties and behaviors of another class means properties are nothing but data members, behaviors are nothing but member functions. A class is a collection of what? A class is a collection of data member and member function, right? With objects, right? A class, suppose a class A has some data member and member functions. What he says? Inheritance is a process of, he says inheritance is the capability of one class to acquire or inherit the properties and behaviors of another class. Means properties are nothing but data members member properties and behaviors. Behaviors are nothing but behaviors, right? Behaviors are nothing but member functions. What is the inheritancy? He says that suppose a class called A has some data members and member functions. Data members and member functions, or data members are called what? Properties, and member functions are called behaviors. A class has properties and behaviors means that class properties and behaviors are inherited, means acquired by another new class, means this process is called inheritancy, right? What is the inheritancy? Simple. Suppose a class has some properties and behaviors, and another class B, suppose it is going to has the same properties and the same behaviors in it, means this B is going to inherit these properties and behaviors, right? Suppose a class has properties and behaviors means new class is going to acquire the same class A's behaviors and properties, means this is nothing but inheritancy. This is nothing but inheritancy. Means the new class which is going to inherit the properties of class A, means already existed class, means this process is called inheritancy, and that new class contains properties and behaviors of existing class, that is class A. Also it has its own properties and behaviors. ಅರ್ಥ ಆಯ್ತಾ? ಸಪೋಸ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಎ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇಂಟ್ ಎ, ಓಕೆ, ಇಂಟ್ ಆ್ಯಡ್ ಅನ್ನೋ ಡೇಟಾ ಮೆಂಬರು ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಇದ್ದರೆ, ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಬಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಬಿ ಈ ಡೇಟಾ ಮೆಂಬರು ಈ ಮೆಂಬರ್ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ನ ಆಕ್ಸೆಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೋದು, ಇನ್ಹೆರಿಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೋದು. ಅಂದರೆ ಇವೆರಡು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಅವೈಲೇಬಲ್ ಇರ್ತಾವೆ. ಈ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಬಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಎದ ಡೇಟಾ ಮೆಂಬರ್ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲದೆ ಅದರದೇ ಆದ ಓನು ಡೇಟಾ ಮೆಂಬರ್ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಕೂಡ ಇರ್ಬೋದು. ಅಂದರೆ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಇಂಟ್ ಸಿ ಅಂತನೋ ಅಥವಾ ಯಾವುದೋ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಇಂಟ್ ಸಬ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಕ್ಷನ್ ಅಂತನೂ ಇರಬಹುದು, ರೈಟ್? ಇಟ್ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ನ್ಯೂ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಕಂಟೈನ್ಸ್ data members and member functions of base class. Also that new class has its own properties and behaviors. ಹೌದಾ? ಬೇಸ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ಲಿಂದ ಅಂದರೆ ಎಕ್ಸಿಸ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ನಲ್ಲಿರೋ ಡೇಟಾ ಮೆಂಬರ್ನ ನ್ಯೂ ಕ್ಲಾಸಲ್ಲಿ ಅಕ್ವೈರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಅದಲ್ಲದೆ ನ್ಯೂ ಕ್ಲಾಸಲ್ಲಿ ಅದರದೇ ಆದ ಡೇಟಾ ಮೆಂಬರ್ ಫಂಕ್ಷನ್ ಕೂಡ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಾ ಇರ್ಬೋದು. ಹೌದಾ? ಸೊ ಇದನ್ನು ವಿತ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ನೋಡಿದಾಗ ಕ್ಲಿಯರಾಗಿ ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸಿ ಹಿಯರ್, C++ allows the user to create a new class from an existing class. The new class inherits or acquires all the features of an existing class, and it can have additional features of its own. ಹೌದಾ? ನಾನು ಈಗ ತಾನು ಹೇಳಿದ್ನಲ್ಲ, ಅದೇ ಥರ C++ allows the user to create a new class from an existing class. ಅಂದರೆ ಈಗ ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಎ ಅಂತ ಇದೆ, ಹೌದಾ? C++ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ವಾಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಪನ್ಸ್ ಇನ್ C++? ಸಪೋಸ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಎ ಇಸ್ ದೇರ್ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ we can include another class in a program, that is class B. ಸೊ ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ಇರೋ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ನ ಏನಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ? ಬೇಸ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್. ಬೇಸ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್. ಸೊ ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ಈ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ಇದೆ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮಲ್ಲಿ. ಸೊ ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಬೇಸ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್. ನೌ ಐ ಆಮ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಅನದರ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್, ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ನ್ಯೂ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್. ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್, ಬಿ ಈಸ್ ಎ ನ್ಯೂ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್. ನ್ಯೂ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್. Now suppose inheritance is done means, what is inheritance? This new class is going to acquire the properties of base class, and this new class also has its own data members and member functions. ಹೌದಾ? ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಈ int a add function ಅನ್ನೋದು a class ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇವೆ. Due to inheritance, what happens? These are available in B also, and that new class B class has these inherited data member and member functions. Also it has its own data member and member functions. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಈ B ಯಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಿರೋ ಸಾಧ್ಯತೆ ಇದೆ? This new class, for example B, is going to have class A's data member and member functions. Also it includes its own data member and member functions. This is possible in C++, right? This is possible in C++. Now see here, now we heard here two word called base class and derived class, right? Then what is a base class? What is mean by base class and what is mean by derived class? See here, what is a base class? It is the class whose properties are inherited by another class. It is also called super class. What is a base class? Base class is a class whose properties are acquired by other class, is called base class. For example, here A is a base class. Why A is called base class? Means A has some data member and member functions, and class A is closed. Now this class B is opened. This B class is going to acquire the properties of class A, as well as it has some other member functions. Means this A is a base class, because what is a base class? Base class, it is a class whose properties are inherited, acquired by another class. Here this A contains some data member and member functions. For example, A and add are the data member and member functions of class A. These members are inherited by this B class. Therefore this A is a base class. This A is a base class. What is a base class? It is a class whose properties are inherited, acquired by other class. It is also called super class. Means what is the other name of base class? Base class ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಹೆಸರೇನು? Super class. Super class, right? This is the another name of base class. Now let us see what is a derived class. What is a derived class? See here, derived class, it is a class that inherits properties from a base class. It is also called super class, right? What is a derived class? It is the class that inherits, acquires the properties from a base class. It means we can say that what is a derived class? Derived class is a one which is going to inherit, acquire the properties from the base class, is called derived class. In simple way we can say that existing class is called base class, new class is called derived class, right? We can say in this way also, existing class is called base class, new class which is going to inherit the properties from a base class is called derived class. In this way also we can say, and this derived class is also called subclass. Subclass, this derived class is also called subclass, right? Now just before going to discuss types of inheritance, see here some advantages are there. Inheritance has the following advantages. Let us see here what are the advantages of this inheritance. Advantages of inheritance. See here once again, just see the definition, then it is very easy to understand the advantages of inheritance. What is inheritance? He says inheritance is the capabilities. What he says, inheritance is the capability of one class to acquire the members of another class, right? Inheritance is the capability of a class to acquire the properties and behaviors of another class, right? I explained with an example. Suppose A is a class, it has some data member and member functions, right? That is properties and behaviors. The same thing is needed in one more class, means it is not necessary to write the code of those member functions. In the C++, we have one feature called inheritance. With the help of inheritance features, we can take already written member function code where we need it. So this process is called inheritance. For example, suppose consider class A that has some data members and close the class A. Now consider another class B. In class B also we need the same code, same member function code which is there in A. Then need not to write once again member function code in the B. It is possible to access that member function code which is there in A. Suppose in B we are going to access the member function code of A, means this is called inheritance. Now you understand? So due to this inheritance concept, rewriting is not necessary, right? Like this, here some advantages of inheritance are there. Let us see those things here. First one is reusing existing code. Reusing existing code. Second one, faster development time. Faster development time. Third one we can say easy to maintain. Easy to maintain. Fourth one, easy to extend. Extend. Fifth one we can say memory utilization. Right? So these are what? These are the advantages of inheritance. Right? Advantages of inheritance. What he says? Reusing existing code. Reusing existing code, faster development time, easy to maintain, easy to extend, memory utilization. These 5 points represents advantages of inheritancy, right? Suppose I just said, suppose class A has some data member and member functions and class A is closed. In class B means a new class, we need the class A base class code once again. Means in B need not it is not necessary to write the code once again, just we using the property called inheritancy, and it is possible to have data members which member functions which are there in A, that thing can be taken in the class B also. Without writing code, we can access class A data member and member functions in B. So this is inheritancy. Due to this, what? Reusing existing code is done, right? We are not going to write once again the same member function code in B. Just we are taking, we are invoking that member function which is there in A, which is already there in existing class, which is already there in base class. So due to this, what happening? Time is saving. That is second one, faster development time. Suppose class A has some 1000 code of member function, means the same code is needed in class B, means it is not necessary to write that 1000 line in class B. Just use the declaration of inheritancy syntax and you can inherit class A member function in class B. So due to this inheritancy concept, what happening? We are not writing a 1000 line code once again. I am saying for example, it may be 1000 or more than 1000 or less than 1000, right? So due to this, faster development time means programming development speed is increased, right? So like this, it is easy to maintain, easy to extend, means we can suppose a program contain class A, class B, class C, so on, means we can extend this inheritancy concept very easily. And fourth one, memory utilization. So these 5 points gives advantages of inheritancy, right? Now see here, types of inheritancy. What we can list 5 different types of inheritancy. They are, first one, single inheritancy. First one, single inheritancy. Second one, multi-level inheritancy. And third one we can take as multiple inheritancy. Fourth one, hierarchical inheritancy. And fifth one, that is the last one, we can say that is hybrid inheritancy. Right? See here I listed 5 different types of inheritancy. First one is single inheritancy. Second one is multi-level inheritancy. Third one is multiple inheritancy. Fifth one is hierarchical inheritancy. Fifth one is hybrid inheritance, right? Like this we can list 5 different types of inheritances, right? See here. So what we discussed, definition of inheritance means first we discussed the introduction to inheritance, right? We know the definition of inheritance, we know the definition of base class and derived class, right? And next we listed advantages of inheritance, right? And next we listed types of inheritance. He says there are 5 different types of inheritances. First one, single inheritance, multi-level inheritance, multiple inheritance, hierarchical inheritance, and fifth one is hybrid inheritance. So like this we can list 5 different types of inheritances. Now let us see first one called single inheritance. What is the mean by single inheritance? Right? First one, single inheritance. See here, what is the mean by single inheritance? A derived class with only one base class is known as single inheritance. What is the definition? A derived class with only one base class is known as single inheritance. This occurs when only base class is used for derivation of a derived class. Further derived class is not used as base class, right? What he says? Single inheritance. Single inheritance. What is a single inheritance? Before going to discuss a single inheritance, just recall what is inheritance. Inheritance is a capacity of a class to acquire or inherit the properties and behaviors of another class, right? So here single inheritance means he says a derived class with only one base class is known as single inheritance. Means single inheritance means he says a derived class with only, see here what he says, single inheritance means a derived class with only one base class is known as single inheritance. This occurs when only base class is used for derivation of derived class. Further derived class is not used as base class. Means, for example, suppose class A is there. Okay. Next, another class, that is new class B, is derived from A. Suppose another new class C is derived from B, means that is not a single inheritance. He says that single inheritance is a one in which a derived class is not derived, a new class is not derived from another derived class. This is the restriction here. So, inheritance, single level inheritance means only one base class and that base class related to derived class. Only this thing is there. Derived class is not going to act as base class for another derived class. Suppose like this is happening, means that is not a single inheritance, right? See here one example. Below figure shows examples for single level inheritance. Example 1. Suppose A is a base class, means this is a base class, means another new class B example 1, right? Suppose A is a class and B is another class which is going to acquire the properties from A means, see here, what are the properties and behaviors are of A are there, they are also there in B, because this is what derived class, this is what base class. And he says that single inheritance means a derived class is not going to act as base class. Means suppose in the next class I am going to take C and it is going to inherit B, then it is not a single inheritance, because single inheritance means there only base class and derived class must be there. This suppose I am taking here another class C and that is derived class that is going to acquire the properties of B, means that is not a single inheritance, because he says that derived class is not going to act as a base class in a single inheritance. Therefore, only one base class and one derived class comes in single inheritance. Let us see second example. One more second example. Suppose matrix is a base class, right? I am taking here another types of matrix, for example square matrix. See here, matrix is a base class, square matrix is a derived class. It is also called new class. It is also called subclass. Right? Base class. It is also called existing class. It is also called superclass. Right? These are the different names for base class. Base class is also called existing class. It is also called superclass. Derived class is also called a new class. It is also called subclass. See here, what happens in second example? Matrix is a class. Matrix is a class means it includes different types of matrix, right? See here, square matrix is a derived class, means it is going to acquire the properties of matrix in it, right? So therefore this is a derived class. This is a derived class. So only one base class and one derived class is there, means that is called single inheritance. That is called single inheritance, right? So in the next class we are going to discuss in detail about remaining types of inheritance. Thank you, students.